Record. You're up.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited to be here. As I said on Facebook, it's the first time I've actually told my story to people who are, are Abraham followers. I've told my story many a time, but this is so much fun because you're going to know when I say the vortex, what that means. And so, just like all of you, if you've been with Abraham for how long, but there's always the before Abraham story and the after Abraham story. And so I thought I'd just start with kind of in the middle, about 4 years, four years before Kevin and I got introduced to Abraham. Because as you know, what Abraham says all the time, if you keep ignoring your emotions, don't worry, it'll get bigger. And I was used to ignoring my emotions most of my life. Whenever anything was painful, my favorite thing was to go to a bag of cookies. That was my comfort zone eating. And so it was a huge habit I've developed over years and years of just numbing my emotions and not acknowledging. Whenever there was pain, I would quickly, go get some food. So I'm going to just go back to about 2004. It was January, and here in Michigan, it is cold and dark and in the morning, and I was on my way to work. And it was like one of these days where it was rain and snow mixed, and the road was glassy, you couldn't see it, and I was worried I was going to be late. So the reason, of course, I was worried because of the weather, but I was more worried that when I got to, if I was late, I was going to be yelled at. And the last thing I ever want in my whole life was to have anyone yelling at me. Probably you can all relate to that. So I went along, and thank God I got there, like 1 minute to 8 o'clock, which was what time we were to start work. I ran in, the phone was ringing in the showroom, and I answered the phone. I knew the boss was there, but he was nowhere to be seen, so I grabbed the phone. And the reason I knew the boss was there is because the boss was my husband. We actually ran this business together, but we drove separately to work because he went off and did his own thing early in the morning. So anyway, I run to the phone, I answer it, and I immediately hear a stranger's voice. I don't know who it is, but they start telling me a story that gives me this huge knot in my stomach. I start feeling sick to my stomach because the story that this person told me was that my husband was having an affair with a young woman that I knew. And actually it was more than an affair, it was like a double life. And I said, well, who is this? And he said he wasn't going to tell me his name, so I didn't know if I could really believe him. But he said, but I'll give you enough information so you can check it out, and then you'll see what's happening. And I said, okay. So we hung up, and this is like just before the customers would come in or our employees would come in. And I stood there for a minute and really, really was off. I felt horrible. And then I went right to my default mode of push it down, pretend nothing's wrong. I don't want anyone to see me feeling like this in this turmoil. And I made a decision then that nobody would even know. I just pretend. I was a great pretender. I just pretend that nothing was wrong. And later on, then I would be able to check out if this story was true. And I had a feeling it was, but I was living in a lot of denial at the time. So that whole day went by. And when it came time to go home, I couldn't wait to go home. My husband, who actually was quite a drinker, he was an alcoholic at this point in our lives and quite a verbal abuser. And that was another reason I didn't want to confront him at all in the office, because I didn't want the people in the office, our employees, to hear all of this. So I really kept quiet, and no one knew. And I was quite an actress at the time when I think back on it. So anyway, I go home, and he goes off to the bar. And for the first time in my life, when I get home, I fall to the floor and I just start crying and crying. I never let myself cry in my whole entire life over something really painful. I always stuffed it down. And so the interesting part, and I love this because this is all hindsight, because I had no idea what law of attraction was or how the universe worked, but I was on the floor sobbing, and our dog, Roxy, Oh, which means I got to get a picture up. Got to show you a picture of her. She came over to me. So let me see if I can do this. Kevin gave me directions. We'll see if I remember. Let's see here. Oh, click on the Zoom, share. All right, everybody, that's how you do it. And then I double click on this. There's Roxy. Can you see her? I hope everybody can see her. Isn't she a cutie pie? Anyway, I was sitting at the coffee table there and she came running over to me and she started licking my tears. It was the sweetest little thing. Oh, she's snuggling up close. And you see these pictures on Facebook, you know, how dogs will comfort. In fact, I just shared a picture today on Facebook about that dog that comforted that woman who was having an anxiety attack. And it just reminded me of Roxy. And I thought, how law of attraction that I found that little clip and it just reminded me when she came over and comforted me and I'm hugging her and she's licking my tears and I think, oh, at least somebody loves me. I mean, really, even if it's a dog, I just felt loved. And the whole thing about the emotional scale that we learned obviously later on, I didn't know this, but when you have any way to bring yourself a little relief during the time of the most miserable thing you can think of, which is where I was at, you raise your energy a little bit. And really, in that moment, I felt a little hope, like somebody loved me, and hope is so much higher than hopeless. And with that, in that moment, and this is hindsight, I didn't know it then, but a thought came to me. And this is the cool thing about law of attraction, what we learned with Abraham. When the universe is always wanting to give you helpful ideas or any other coincidences. And for me, the first little cooperative component was Roxy coming up. And then I felt hope. And in that moment of hope, a thought came to me and it was my voice. It was my inner being. I didn't know about that then, but it was my voice saying, what do I need to learn about me or life so I never repeat this again? Because this was my second husband. I already gone through my first marriage, 20 years with a verbally abusive alcoholic man. And I thought I was done. And no, I did it again. And I knew at that point, I never, ever wanted to have a painful relationship. So when I had that moment of hope, the universe was saying, or my inner, what do I need to learn about myself or life so I don't repeat it again? And then Roxy's still there. We're still hugging. And I'm, you know how when you stop sobbing, you just have that, when you take a deep breath, that connects you to the universe too. All of this, I didn't know this then, but it just happens that way. And then another thought came. And this thought was, I need to call the CEO of another company I was in. So my husband and I ran this company together. It was an 8 to 5 job. And I was in another company, a multi-level marketing company at the time. I'd already been in it, like at that time, 25 years. And I sold lingerie at home parties. It was called Undercover Wear. Catchy little title. We were undercover agents, another catchy title. But at any rate, I'd been in it so long and I was a top achiever. And so I thought, this thought came to me, call Tiffany was her name, call Tiffany and tell her what's happening in my life. Because at that point, one of the cool things about Undercover Wear is every year, depending on what your sales were and who you recruited, you build up these points and you could earn all expense paid trips around the world. And at that time, right then at that time in my life, I'd earned an all expense paid trip to Puerto Vallarta. And so I thought I'd call her and tell her I'm not going on the trip because I have this big divorce I'm going to be facing, and that's what I was going to tell her. So I get on the phone and I tell her, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to take the trip. I actually been on 25 different trips around the world, all expenses paid, taking my alcoholic husband. So that was the bummer part, but traveling for free in beautiful countries was gorgeous. But at any rate, I said, I'm not going on this trip. And she said, oh, Suzanne, what's going on? And I explained what had happened. And I still had had to do figuring out to see if it was really true, but I knew he was leading a double life. And she said, oh my God, Suzanne, I'm so glad you're getting divorced. None of us liked your husband. Oh, really? I had no idea. It was because on the trips, when I would take him and even my previous husband, of course they would drink a lot and then they'd get abusive. And then all the people on my team, and I had a big structure of 150 women. Not they weren't all on the trip because you had to be an achiever to make those trips. But Tiffany was telling me, nobody wants to sit at your table, Suzanne, because nobody can stand your husband, but they sit there because they like you. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I know? I'm so blind. I'm living in denial of this whole big mess for so many years. And she said, okay, Suzanne, I'm going to find you a good attorney. I said, okay, I can't even think straight. Thank you. Great. Now, she lived in Hawaii and Boston. Boston was where Undercover was located, but they had a home in Hawaii too. And so 3 days later, she calls me back and she says, okay, I have an attorney for you. And she's in this city that's like 45 minutes from me. And I say, well, that's kind of a far drive. And she said, I know she's good. Just go to her. If it works out and it feels good, you can ask her for an attorney closer to you. And I said, okay. So I go to meet her. And there's more of that backstory, but I won't go into it. But you'll read about it in the book, Karen. But the bottom line was, when I got there, I really liked her. I was hesitant. I didn't know if I was going to, because of course I was in this down at the bottom of the emotional scale. You just don't trust anybody. But I really did like her, and she was very, very sweet. And she said, Suzanne, I will take your case if you'd like, but you have to promise that you do everything I tell you. And I said, well, okay, that's fine. I can't even think straight anyway. Just tell me what you want me to do. So what I had found out over all my exploring, and I did all this before I got the attorney actually, was that my husband had taken part of our retirement money and bought a house without me knowing, and then had this girlfriend living in it. And so I trusted him with our finances, and lesson learned. I understand what all of the money finances now, but I didn't then. And so I thought she was going to tell me, I want you to go get into your finances and see what you have, because obviously I didn't know what's going on. But instead she says, I'll take your case on if you promise to do this. And I said, what is it? She said, I want you to learn to meditate. Now, what attorney tells us they want to send you to a meditation class? And because both of my husbands were alcoholic and abusive, I enabled them all the time by doing everything. So I was like the self-help. If something needed to get done, I would learn how to do it, and I would do it, and I would just do it all. So she said, oh, and by the way, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to learn to meditate on your own. I want you to go to a class. I want you to go to a group setting, a teacher who teaches meditation. And I said, okay. And she said, in fact, I want you to learn Deepak Chopra's primordial sounds. And I said, okay, but do I have to drive to your city to learn? And she says, no, I've been meditating for years. This is so law of attraction. So she takes this deep breath and she opens up the phone book back when people had yellow pages, and it falls open to my city in a neighboring city. And she's going up and down the yellow pages, and she stops and she goes, oh, here's a woman who teaches exactly what I want you to learn, Deepak Chopra's primordial sounds. And guess what? She's 1 mile from your house. And she looks up the address. And I'm going, okay. And of course I roll my eyes like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going. I guess I'm going to this meditation class. And actually I had read Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle. I'd read all this stuff, but I never really focused on it. And of course I didn't know about law of attraction. So I was introduced to all these different things, but never did I focus on it. I was too busy running businesses, and with my first husband, we had 4 children, so I was raising children, and then I was enabling alcoholics, so I had no time for spirituality. So I roll my eyes and I go, okay. And so I leave her office, and the next day I call to sign up for this meditation class. And of course, there's only 1 seat left. Do you suppose the universe was holding that for me? And I didn't know about that. And I thinking, okay, fine. I was hoping that there wouldn't be a seat, but anyway, there was. And then I'm thinking, okay, and actually this is interesting, because when I got the last seat, I'm thinking, oh, my attorney really cares about me, and I guess I'm supposed to go here. There's 1 seat left, and I'm having a little hope that somebody cares to help me more than the dog. And with that hope, and this is just how the law of attraction works, a thought came to me. I wonder what I need. It was the same question that came before. What do I need to learn so I don't repeat this again? What do I need to learn about life? That thought entered my mind again. And with the fact that I just gotten the last seat in a meditation class, my next thought was, maybe it's spirituality. Maybe I need to focus on spirituality. And so, okay. I mean, I was familiar with the word and read some things, but I never focused on it. So, okay, that was Saturday. So I see her Friday. Saturday, I get the seat and I have the idea that spirituality is what I want. And then on Sunday, I get up in the morning and I flip on the TV, and I think he's seen all over the world, but it stops on Joel Osteen. And he's a, I honestly had never, ever watched him. Never had I, the TV just stopped on it. And he was doing his wonderful, positive, energetic thing, and I was drawn to it. And that year he'd written his very first book, and it was called Your Best Life Now. And I thought to myself, your best life now, when's that happening? And I love reading, so I quickly ordered the book, because all of my life, one of the things I did was read. I read all the time to help my 4 children who were growing up in an alcoholic family have the best life possible when Dad was gone off and away. So I would try my darndest to be the best role model for them at that time. And then he would come home, and then I'm sure it was total confusion for my kids. But at any rate, Your Best Life Now. So the book comes in, and in the meantime, the meditation class, I have a whole month to wait for it. So I was glad the book came in. I started reading it. And this was another gift from the universe, just me ordering the book, all of these little things lining up. Because I started reading it, and Joel, I talk like he's my friend, and Joel, he wrote in the book all these true life stories of people he'd known, personally known, including himself, his father, his mother, and all these people who had gone through really difficult times, like miserable times. Some of them I thought worse than what I was going through, and they became happy and successful. And it was so uplifting. I would read it at night before I go to bed. And I felt so hopeful when I was done with the book. It was 1 week before the meditation class was to start. And because I was in this hopefulness feeling, which faith and hope, I'd never felt that before. I wasn't raised in a religion. We weren't taught to pray. I did go to church, but it was hypocritical. We were there to make our presence. But I didn't really think about hope and faith and all that stuff. So when I got done reading the book, I had hope that maybe I can be happy again too. That's really all I wanted to do. Just how could I be happy on the other side of this mess that I'd gotten myself into? So with that thought, this is so interesting. In this nice little hopeful moment, this thought comes to me and it says, it's my voice, and it's saying to me, if I ever have another man in my life, I want him to be spiritual. Not religion, not any of that stuff, but just spiritual. I want to talk about this faith and hope and good energy feeling thing. That's all I knew. And then I let it go, because then I went back to my what is right now instead of into the hope thing. And I thought, well, that'll never happen. I hate men. I don't even want another man. So I went back down the scale to my life is miserable. But here's the cool thing. The universe hears, and it's in your vortex now. I put it out. It's like that rocket of desire. If I ever have another man in my life, I want him to be spiritual. And I didn't know there was a vortex that's going to hold that space for me. So a week goes by and I go to the meditation class, and honestly, I had never meditated. So I did a lot of crying. I had no idea that I was going to bring up, I was actually embarrassed. I was crying so much, and some of the people knew what I was going through, especially the teacher. I told her. And the interesting part was that's where I met Kevin, my husband. What other spiritual place can you have lined up so quickly? I just started the divorce, so I was hating men. I didn't even look twice at him. I honestly didn't even realize he was there. I was so busy into my crying and feeling embarrassed that I was in such a big mess in my life. So the cool part was, the next cooperative component from the universe was the teacher of the meditation class. She comes up to me after and she said, Suzanne, you know, every month or two, anybody who's been through our program, we get together and we meditate. It might be good for you to practice it because you have a lot going on in your life, and it's good to sit in a group of people who are already meditating. It just helps support you. And I said, that'd be great. I'm happy to do that. Well, little did I know in hindsight that Kevin had, this is another cool law of attraction story. Kevin had already learned to meditate from this woman when she lived on his side of town. So like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years previous, he'd taken the meditation class from her. Then the universe has her move to my city 3 months before I needed this meditation class. And now Kevin had gone to the meditation class because his mother had died and his girlfriend had left him. He'd have to tell that story, but I know it was, he just knew he needed to get back into meditation. And so that's why he was there. So he hears, people get together once every other month and we meditate. And so he decides to go and I decide to go. And this is the coolest thing. When you're not ready to receive your gift from the universe, as long as you keep showing up and keep reaching for the better feeling place to be, the universe will not give up on you. So I start going to the meditation class, so does Kevin and a few other people. And over that whole year of that divorce, which was very, very difficult, it was probably the worst thing I could imagine going through, but thank goodness I started focusing towards spirituality. Kevin and I became friends. So we were just spiritual friends. Like I had said 1 week before I went to the class, if I ever have another man in my life. So I was just thinking he's a friend. I had no idea what it would unfold to, but I'm thinking nice to have a friend who knows computer, yay. Because I knew I was getting divorced and I knew nothing about computers, and I was running my other business, this undercover wear lingerie business, and I needed my computer help. So it was really nice that he was just a friend. That's originally just what I thought. We were going to stay friends. So that's how Kevin and I met. And that's the middle, and that's kind of the middle of, just before Abraham, we found Abraham, and then Kevin and I met, and then the coolest thing happened after that. I mean, really the first year after, Kevin was in a networking group, and he said, Suzanne, I told him, I'm going to start building my undercover wear back up. I had put so many hours into this other business that my multi-level marketing thing had dwindled, and it wasn't enough to pay my bills. So I wanted to start building that up again because I knew I could be successful in it. I'd done it before. He said, why don't you join this networking group? Or at least come and visit. And I said, I've never done networking. I get my bookings. This is like home parties, like Tupperware or Mary Kay, where ladies get together and then they book a show and then their friends get together. And I was wanting to get more bookings. And so he's just come and visit. And I thought, I'm not sure how this is going to work. This is still hesitant on this thing. And of course, I don't know Kevin that well. I've never done networking to get bookings. I get the bookings at the parties. Well, just come and visit, he says. Okay, so I go to visit over on his side of town. And this is another gift from the universe. So the man that put this networking meeting on used to be, before he was the director of this, it was called BNI, he used to be a motivational speaker. Now, all of my years, I loved motivational speakers because when in undercover wear, I'd always turn to that when I wanted to lift myself up. Any inspirational motivational speaker, I listened to all the time. Now, he was so intriguing. He made this BNI sound like so cool. I had to join. If it had been some dull, boring person, I probably would have thought, well, thank you, Kevin, but I don't think so. But I was like, whoa, he had the energy that pulled me in. So I say, okay, I'll give it a try. I can't imagine all these men giving me lingerie bookings, but hey, I'll try it. So I now start seeing Kevin every week because this networking group met every week. And now I'm, this is just how Kevin's and my friendship unfolded. We're getting to know each other in our businesses. I'm learning more about his business and his IT business that he had. And he's obviously learning more about the lingerie business. And so that year goes by. And then he finally says to me, Suzanne, have you ever taken Dale Carnegie? And I said, no, what is that? And he said, oh, well, it really changed my life. It's an amazing program. It's a 12-week program, and it helps people be, get comfortable speaking in front of groups and be confident in the way you talk. And I said, well, I'm not sure if I really need that because I've been speaking in front of undercover wear groups for years. And he said, well, Suzanne, it's about human relations principles. And I said, oh, I could use some help there. I can't figure out men. Maybe I should take that class. So, and it's a 12-week program. And see, a lot of companies will send their managers and people who have to lead teams and so forth to the Dale Carnegie program because it really does help you learn how to have good human relations and how powerful your words are, and that what you say, is affecting your experience, which we know, especially with law of attraction. And so I signed up for it, and Kevin said, well, if you take it, I'll be your coach. And they have these Dale Carnegie people who had already gone through it, just coach all of the students, because there's only one instructor, and then the students need help learning how to do their little 2-minute talks. Well, long story short, during that 12-week program, I started hearing more and more about Kevin's life, because every 2-minute talk was a thing on because it was human relations, they always wanted you to talk about something going on in your life. And I started getting really intrigued with things that I was hearing about him. And I actually, honestly, started falling in love with it, but I didn't want to tell him because we were just friends. And we were just friends. And honestly, and you might as well know, I'm 13 years older than Kevin. So I just thought, well, you know what, we'll just be friends. I don't mind if he finds someone his age and he, it all unfolds. It's not a problem. I've been married twice. I just like the idea. He'll be my friend. And I will never feel jealous. I just enjoyed this wonderful friendship we had. And so that when we got through the Dale Carnegie, I knew I was loving him. And at that point, I think one time I told him, you'll have to read about that in the book, what happened when I said I love you. But long story short, he honestly said that he doesn't say I love you back. He doesn't say that unless he really means it. And I thought, a man of integrity. I don't want lip service. I don't want him to say I love you just as I said I love you. In all reality, I'd had enough lying from all my previous husbands. So I actually admired that. At first, when I said I love you and he didn't say it back, then I got a little knot in my stomach. Oh my God, I'm never going to be vulnerable again. But then I started realizing, oh no, I want a man of integrity. This is good. So anyway, time goes by, and now got my undercover wear business growing very nicely, and I earned 2 trips. That was the first year undercover wear to earn 2 trips. Ran 2 trips where we could earn. So I took my sister to Hawaii. I had earned 2 tickets to Hawaii that year. And then I had this other one coming up to the Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. And I said to my sister, Kevin and I have been friends for so long. I mean, I'd like to take him on this trip. And she says, oh, that's okay. I'm just so glad you have someone that you can take. That's fine. I know she wanted to go to Dominican Republic with me, but she understood that this was important to me. So I asked Kevin if he would go on it, and he was so sweet. He took a week to think about it, and I just admired that, and he couldn't imagine that he wouldn't have to pay for it, and I was just happy he was going. And when we got down there, I have to tell you, this was the most romantic vacation I'd ever had in my whole entire life. I'd been around the world, Australia, Argentina, Europe, everywhere with undercover wear. And then I had these drunken men with me, my husbands, and they were just obnoxious, and there was no romance. And there in the Dominican Republic, it was like a storybook fairy tale. It was so amazing. And we laid under the stars, and he pulled me around the pool, all these cool things. I wrote about it in my book. And then I'll never forget, I think it was almost the last day, we were at dinner, and we went not where the big group was. We went off on our own private little place, and he's looking at me, and he looks across the table where we're sitting, kitty corner, and he takes my hand, and he says, Suzanne, I don't know if these are the exact words, this is the way I remember it. I really love you, and I want you to be my wife. So he asked me to marry him on this trip, and I was shocked. But I didn't know law of attraction then, but my little gut said yes. So I said yes right away. I didn't analyze it. I didn't let my ego get in the way. Yes. And then my little ego comes back and I start thinking to myself after I'd said yes, oh, what are my kids going to think? What are my parents going to think? I'm so much older than him. All of this stuff that I was used to being hard on myself. And then I took a deep breath and, no, this feels right. I knew it was right. And so I never doubted it again, but it was just in hindsight, looking how we can not listen to our own gut instinct and get back into the egocentric, ridiculous stuff, negative self-talk that we do to ourselves. And so that, of course, in the end, we got married that year. That was the cool thing. And then the 1 year later, he got diagnosed with a brain tumor, and you all heard his story. And that's when he really wanted to understand more deeply about law of attraction. So now I'm going to back up because that's my love story. And that's why I decided to write the book. There's so much more in the book than just that, but I knew I had a message for mostly for anyone who's just tired of bad relationships. You're so tired of being hurt and what's going on and how can I change that? And, you know, I just thought, I just want to share this. And if anyone, if it resonates with someone, great. And if it's not, they're not ready, it's okay. I just wrote it, but I didn't think about writing it. That was Kevin that helped me get going on that. But now I want to back up to help you see what happened in my early part of life that made me attract, and I totally am accountable how I attracted these two verbally abusive alcoholic men. It just, when I learned how it all worked, I thought, oh my God, no wonder that happened. No wonder that happened. That's what I write in the book. I become accountable. This is the fun part. When you really understand how it all works and how powerful your thoughts are and the energy that you're putting out, and most importantly, how powerful your emotions are, that they're always talking to you, you can change your life. It is a matter of just deciding to pay attention to your emotions and thinking about what you were thinking and changing the thought you were thinking that feels a little bit better. So what happened with me, I grew up on an island in the Detroit River. In fact, you know what? I've been talking for a long time. Does anyone want to make a comment? Want to? Okay.
If I can make a comment so far,
Oh, okay.
Suzanne,
Yes.
your story, and this has just been rolling, rolling, rolling in my mind from everything you've been saying. Cooperative components, cooperative components, cooperative components.
Yes.
And that's, I've finished it. I just had to get that off my mind. Now my mind has reset. Okay.
Okay. Cool. You know, people call them coincidences, but because I'd looked back and examined my whole life, none of them were coincidences. They were cooperative components being given to me. Either I was ready to receive them or not, but they're always coming. Always, the universe is always bringing vibrational help to you, what you put in your vortex, but if you don't match it at the time, you're not going to see it when it's coming. So I like to call them cooperative components. So I just guess I'll go back to when I was, you know, here's a picture of my family here. First, I'm going to start with my mom. Now, my mom was a model, and she actually was a model for Coca-Cola back in the day when all they had, Coke only came in the glass bottles. And so before she got married and had my two sisters and I, so I was one of three girls, she modeled for Coca-Cola. So here's a picture of her. Her name was Teresa Rohr. There she is. And she, if anyone collects Coca-Cola memorabilia, I'll show you something you can look for. She was on lots of Coca-Cola memorabilia. Like this is a serving tray that they had in restaurants. See her there? So that's her holding the glass bottle, sitting on a dock, and let's have a Coke. And the other cool thing that was about my mom when we were little, because her Coca-Cola advertising stuff was still very prevalent when we were little kids. So when we would drive in the car, back when they used billboards for all the advertising, you know, they had these big billboard signs of my mom, like, let's have a Coke. And I just thought, well, this is normal. My mom's up there on the billboard. And here's one more. It's been fun. It was fun going through all these pictures. I hadn't seen them for a while. Let's see here. This is another one. This is one, all of us girls, after my mom passed away, she made sure we all got one of these, and we have them on our walls. It's that one, I think that one you just saw. Let's see here. There we go. So we got it in a picture frame. Look at Coca-Cola. It was 5 cents a bottle then. Love that. All right. So she was a beautiful woman, obviously. And my dad was pretty popular when he was 5 years old. He was a prodigy when playing the drums. And when he was 5 years old, he played the drums and was asked to play in John Philip Sousa's marching band stuff. This was back in there. And so he was well known for that. Now this, in the end though, they both had their little careers, but when they got married, they decided they would not do what they loved. And this is the way what happens, you know. Here we go. When I found these photos, this is my family. So this is my mom, my dad, and my 3 sisters. My youngest sister is obviously sitting on my dad's lap, and my older sisters stand by my mom, and that's me with that beautiful hairdo. You can see I was already loving to eat there. Yeah, that was, I learned how to eat really early on. My mom told me that when my sister was born in 45, it was wartime, and and of course it's my mom's first child, so my mom's probably full of anxiety, and knowing how things work now, my sister probably picked it up, but she wouldn't eat much at all. She's a very tiny, scrawny little baby. So when I was born in 47, the war was over, and for whatever reason, I love to eat. So my mother would tell me the story that when she's feeding me, she was so happy I would drink my bottle that she'd just keep giving me bottles until I did projectile vomiting. She just got me so stuffed with food. And of course, in hindsight, I'm thinking, I understand how habits are built. I love being held by my mom. I thought a nice full tummy made her happy. And so I just throw up a little bit when it was too much. And so I think I began my comforting thing about eating them. That's just my viewpoint from it. When I hear the story that my mom tells, I go, okay, this is starting to make sense. Of course, I got all the attention, and I did then. So now I realize this really makes my mom happy. So I am the best eater in town. I want second helpings. I clean my plate. And by the time I'm 9 years old, then I'm the overweight one in the family. I'm the fat one of everyone in the family. And so my mother says, okay, Suzanne, it's time to go for your yearly checkup to the doctors. And we go, and I get on a scale, and both the doctor and my mom, they go, oh. And I'm thinking, what's wrong here? I have no idea. So we go into the examining room, and he finishes his exam, and it's all over. He says, you know, Suzanne, it's time for you to go on a diet. And now I had never heard of the word diet. I had no idea what that meant. He gives my mom a list of things I can eat and cannot eat. The cannot eat was really big, and the can eat was like this. And so we started this journey of me being on a diet. And in hindsight, I didn't know it then, but that is truly when I started building my habit of negative self-talk, because I didn't understand it. I wondered what was wrong with me. Why can they have whole milk and I have to have skim milk? Why can they have gravy and I can't have it, or butter on my vegetable, whatever it was? And I began to honestly think over time, because, you know, the longer you think a thought, you're going to keep attracting more thoughts to you. You know, it only takes 15 seconds to get one more thought to you. And now I'm a little kid. I don't have the ability to understand all of this really. And I'm thinking, there must be something wrong with me. I must not be good enough to be in this family. What's wrong with me? Nobody knows I'm thinking this, by the way. I don't say this to my family. My own mind is running around these, I'm not good enough. There must be something wrong with me. I don't fit in. I'm the fat one, all of those things. So that's when I acquired this habit of negative self-talk. And so luckily the diet worked fine. My mother was careful and I followed the rules. I was definitely a good little girl, because I learned early on that if you did what your parents said, they smiled. And everybody wants your parents to smile. So I easily learned how to make everybody happy. And especially during that diet thing, okay, fine. I did what they said. And by the time I was a teenager, I had a very nice shape. I was nice average weight. And I'm sure my mom was happy, because, you know, when you think about it, my mom being a model, her whole self-esteem was built around the way she looked. I mean, that is where she came from. I know she was thinking, you're going to get, you know, when you get old, you'll be fat and lonely and unhappy. I mean, this is just something from her own perspective that I understand why it was so important for me to follow this diet. And then by the time I was a teenager, I had this actually started developing much sooner than even my older sister. And I was embarrassed about the whole thing. And I really honestly didn't think of myself I still thought of myself as fat, honestly. It was just something I had going, and I didn't like my body. I didn't like this developing thing I was having going on. So I'd wear these big old baggy sweatshirts, and all through high school, even though I had a beautiful shape in hindsight, I thought I didn't want anyone to see it. I just felt bad about myself. So I never thought I'd ever have a boy look at me. And so finally, by the time I'm 16, I meet a boy who's a guy who's 18 out of high school. And he's the first one that ever cared and showed any interest in me. And of course, when you're young, you have no idea how it all works. And so, you know, he's got a job. He's out of high school. He's a millwright in a plant, in an auto plant in Detroit here. So he's making great money. He's got this really cool car, and he's funny, and he's a great dancer. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm in love, of course. Now, my parents didn't want me to date him because, see, we grew up in this island, Grosse Ile, it was called Grosse Ile. It's in the middle of the Detroit River, which connects the Great Lakes, Lake Erie to, I think it's Lake St. Clair. I should know my geography, I live here. But at any rate, this little island was kind of secluded, and everybody knew everybody. And my dad was the principal of the one and only elementary school, so he knew all the parents on the island. And so when I started dating this guy, he knew that my boyfriend came from a very dysfunctional family. He was an only child in an alcoholic family. I didn't know this, and even if he told me, I wouldn't have understood or even cared probably. But I knew they didn't want me to date him, but I kept dating him anyway. And finally, it comes time to graduate, and I get a scholarship to go to Western Michigan University, which is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And my boyfriend's hating that I'm going off to college because he's staying and working in the auto plant, and that was 3 hours away. So what does he do? And my parents, this is the interesting part, my parents are so happy he wasn't going to go. And I say to my mother, you know how adults always say, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do when you get to college? And I have a big thought. I say, you know what? I want to be a psychiatrist. I want to help people. I can't understand why some people are happy and some people aren't. And why are some families so happy and some aren't? I would like to be a psychiatrist. And my mother says, oh, honey, don't worry about that. Just go off to college and find a good man, she says. So that was the standard she grew up. She grew up in the time when mom stayed home, and that was very valuable. It was a Leave It to Beaver time. And she wore those dresses with the little belts and everything. It was like she was a perfect Mrs. Cleaver, only she was Mrs. Rohr was our last name. So anyway, I get the scholarship. I go off to college, and my boyfriend's so upset. He's getting so jealous, and I didn't know what jealous signs were. I just thought he loved me so much. He applies to college, and he gets accepted, and he goes. My parents, I'm sure they were disappointed, but I don't hear about it, thank goodness. And so we go for the whole year of college, and then unfortunately I get pregnant. But luckily I got 1 full year, and I come home to tell my parents, and it was a very traumatic moment for everyone because I was their shining star, and I had them on a pedestal too, honestly. And I had no idea. I was just so afraid to tell them. And when I told them that I was pregnant, this is when I learned that I had 2 choices. And this is actually when I realized that, my parents did have, I really always felt they loved me just so much. Even though I was on that diet thing, I always felt loved. I got plenty of hugs, and they never said all that. I was doing the negative self-talk. They weren't. So I just thought, I'm totally loved. So when I say I'm pregnant, now suddenly the criteria changes about what love's all about. And they tell me I have choices. First of all, I can have an abortion, which they were illegal at the time, or I can get married. And that was it. Because they weren't going to have an unwed mother in their, especially on the island, let alone our family, because everyone would hear about it and all the image and all that stuff. So I'm thinking, well, I don't even know what an abortion is, but I knew this baby was meant to be born. So I know I'm getting married. And even though my boyfriend and I had been together since I was 16, we said I love you, but we never said you want to get married. We didn't talk about marriage, so we get married. And then long story short, we stay married. We actually stayed married for almost 20 years, but over the first 15 years, he goes back to college. He gets a degree in automotive engineering, and then we start being transferred around the United States. And we live in different cities. This is when it was hard for him, I'm sure, too. He was young and being moved all over the place, and we weren't used to all of that. We'd both grown up on this island and secluded. So he started drinking more because to numb his emotions of whatever was going on. And I started eating more. So my weight would go up and down. And he became very critical of, I didn't look like I did in high school. And of course, alcoholics do that. It's just what they do is they lash out at you because they don't feel good about themselves. And I understand it all now, but I didn't know it then. So I'm, not only do I have my own negative self-talk from the diet as a kid, but I'm now starting to take on everything he's saying to me. I'm too fat and all the other things. And I just talked to my mom about it, that I just don't know what to do. And my mom, and this is the thing with belief systems, they're so powerful. And my parents were raised, and I was raised in the belief system that you stay married forever for the children. The children are the most important. Everybody has their faults. Nobody's perfect. You just stay in the marriage, is the way she talked to me. But then my mom never was married to an alcoholic, and she couldn't possibly know what I was going through because I didn't tell her all the miserable parts, just some of them, but not all of them. So I thought, okay, I'm used to numbing my emotions. I'll toughen up here. I can stick it out, and I'll tolerate, and I'll sacrifice. And I made my total focus. This is why I read so much with kids. I loved being a mom. I loved my kids. They were my joy. I mean, they just, between me and the kids, it was the best thing. And when Dad came home, it was difficult. But he went to the bar every night anyway, so it was, most of the time I was glad when he was gone, because then it was just me and the kids, and then I could have the atmosphere I wanted to make. And so that went on for many, many years. And then finally, our last transfer came back to Michigan. And the one before that was in Boston. That's where we lived. And this is where Undercover, where the company started, in Boston. So when I was living in Boston, we were there. I made some friends there. And then when we got back to Michigan, I got this call. I got this call from a girlfriend about 1 year into Michigan. And she was so excited. She said, "Suzanne, I am doing something really fun. I'm selling this lingerie at home parties. It's called Undercover Wear." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, good for you. Hey, I'm glad you're happy doing something." She said, "No, I think you should do it." And I said, "Oh, not a chance. I can't be one of those pushy salespeople. Those demonstrators that bug you to have a party. And I don't like aggressive salespeople. There's no way I could do that." And she said, "Suzanne, this is different. This is lingerie. The ladies are trying on the nightgowns. They're having a lot of fun. You're making money. You can make some money for yourself. And it's just a lot of laughs." And she knew I like to laugh, because honestly, I do. Laughter brings so much relief to you when you're having a difficult time. And she knew that about me. And I said, "Well, I don't think that's going to work. I don't know anything about sales." She said, "No, just ask him." She knew I was married to. "Just ask him, see what he says." And I said, "Well, he's not going to want me to do that." And she said, "Just ask him. If he says no, you don't do it." So I ask him. Finally, I get my courage up. I wait about 3 weeks to ask him. And I say, "Hey, my friend Lynn, she's selling this lingerie at home parties, and she wants me to sell it. And I'd like to sell it." And he says, "What?" I said, "Well, it's sort of like Tupperware, but it's a lot more fun. It's lingerie." And he said, you can't do that. People think those things are pyramid schemes, for one. But secondly, you know nothing about sales," he says. "And you know nothing about lingerie." Now I start pointing out everything that I don't know. And actually, I agree with him, because I don't know any of this stuff. And here's the thing about law of attraction. I was already expecting him to say no and be negative and point all my flaws out. I already had that in my mind. So naturally, I attracted that. And the very last thing he said to me was, "You're just way too fat to be a salesperson." And I sat there used to this criticism. And this is the cool part. I took a deep breath. I still didn't know how cool this was. And in the breath, a thought came to me. And the thought said, and it was me, my voice again talking to me, "If you give me the money, I will be successful," I say to myself. And then I go back into my reality. I don't know why I thought that. And within 30 seconds, he turns around and he says, "Here's the money. You'll never be successful." So I had already put in the vortex, "You give me the money, I'll be successful." I don't know why I put it there, but obviously your own inner being always wants you to rise to the highest level you possibly can. And it's planting those little seeds. And in that time when I took the breath, when he was criticizing me, I heard that this is so interesting how it all works. And so I call my girlfriend. "I've got the money. Let's get the kit." I find out when the kit comes in, it is hilarious. I mean, there's stuff in there I'd never seen in my life. This underwear, well, it was crotchless underwear, but I had no idea what it was. And I called my girlfriend. I said, "What is this? Is a hole in it or something?" She said, that's our peekaboo undies. And I said, peekaboo undies? She goes, yeah, we can't say crotchless. This is 1981. And I'm thinking, well, this might be funny. And she says, yeah, there's a peekaboo bra in there too. Look for that. So I'm going through the kit, and now I'm laughing. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this could be fun. This is hilarious. I've never seen stuff like this. And they also had pajamas and nightshirts. So luckily they had something for everyone. And so in my history with my first husband, because he was the drinker and the big storyteller, I was afraid to talk to people. We'd go to parties, I'd laugh, he'd tell the jokes, everybody'd be talking, I would be the quiet one. So the first fear I had to overcome is talking in front of these ladies in somebody's living room. I got migraine headaches at every party. And after 5 shows, I thought, I can't keep doing this. And then my little inner being said, your girlfriend believes in you. And she did. She said, Suzanne, you're going to love this. You love to laugh. And I thought, I can't let her down. What can I do? And with that little, I want to make her happy, which I don't know if that's the right way to do it. But anyway, I didn't want to disappoint her. And so I thought, what do I need to do so I can kind of keep on going? And the idea, when you ask for help, this is the thing, keep asking. When you ask for help, the universe will provide. And the thought came to me, at the undercover wear parties, we have this little sensuality test. It was a little game the ladies played, and you read these questions. It was things like, if you've ever greeted your favorite male at the door in sexy lingerie, you get 20 points. And if not, you got 0. So in the end, we'd add up the score. And I'd always give a prize for the high score and a low score, so everybody's a winner. So I'm thinking, okay, I got a list of 50 questions. I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to pick the ones that make me laugh for the next party, because I would just read them randomly. So I go through and I start giggling over the ones that I know that would make me laugh. And I go to the next party, and this is the benefit of thoughts that bring you higher vibration. I started on that sensuality test with all the questions that made me laugh. My headache went away. My headache went away because I'm having such a good time. I didn't understand what I'd done for myself, but I never had a headache again. So I had overcome that. And many other things I had to overcome. But the cool part was, because I brought myself relief and picked something that felt good to me, the universe gives me another cooperative component, Jonathan. I get a call from the Detroit News. It's a great big huge newspaper in Michigan. Everyone read it. It was before TV was popular and everything else. Well, we had TV then, but everyone read it, thousands and thousands of people. And this woman from the Detroit News said, I want to come and I want to do an article on this undercover wear party. And I said, oh my gosh, I just got rid of my headaches. I'm not sure if I'm ready for you. And she said, well, okay, just call me when you're ready. And I'm thinking, I don't want someone coming and judging me and critiquing me. I've been judged my whole life. I was relieved. But my headaches never came back. So then I thought, what, maybe I'll call her. So 4 weeks later, I call her. I said, okay, you can come to the next party. She comes and she has a pad of paper. There was no computers in it. She's taking notes, and she's very, very serious. And I don't even want to look at her because she's not smiling and laughing. And all the girls were having a great time. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she hates it. But I'm busy at the show. And it's all done. I go over, I say, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. And she said, I'm not sure when I'm going to print this. And I said, well, that's okay. It's no problem. She said, it'll be later on. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, I hope she never prints it, because she never cracked a smile. And I was worried about being judged. So I let it go, and I didn't think about it anymore, and I didn't hear from her. And so wouldn't you know, spring comes. I love this part. Another cooperative component. This woman calls me. She said, I'm ready to print the article. I said, I had almost forgotten about it. Can I read it? And she said, don't worry, I'm a good writer. Now, she'd been a writer for years for the Detroit News, and I'm all worried. And she said, I'm a good writer, and I decided to let it go. Okay, fine. Okay, go ahead and print it. And this is the interesting part. She decided to print it on the Sunday Detroit News, which is huge. Everyone bought the Sunday paper on Mother's Day. So all the women were going to read in the women's section. And it's the front page. Now, is that a gift from the universe? I didn't ask for this. I didn't line this up. I didn't plan it. It just, I allowed her to come when I felt a little better. Allow. Because really, honestly, if I'd said come when I was nervous, I would have had a different energy. It would have been a different experience. This is all hindsight, but it makes so much sense now. So that's when it comes out. But before it came out, I just want to tell you, I was totally afraid of ever asking anyone for a booking. I was afraid of rejection. I've had a lot of rejection in my life, so I would never ask at a party, any of these girls, would you like to have a show? Because I was afraid of no. So how I was getting the bookings, which was, I was only doing like 2 or 3 months, was just go to my girlfriend or my neighbor and say, hey, would you do me a favor? I'm doing this, I'm selling this lingerie at home parties. Would you want to have a party? And they'd always say yes. So I was getting them that way, but not at the party. Now, when the article came out, the phone just, and this is when phones were hooked to walls, it just rang off the wall. On and on, I got call after call, and all of these ladies were saying to me, this is the power of changing the way you're thinking. Hey, I saw the article in the Detroit News. Would you do me a favor and come and do a party for me and my friends at my house? And I'm thinking, oh, I gotta do you a favor? Yay. What a different energy exchange. Before, would you do me a favor? I'm like begging, sort of. And now I'm doing them a favor. Like, this was meant to be. And this is why I always love Wayne Dyer, because he always says, when you change the way you look at things, the thing you look at change. And in 3 short years, I was making as much money as my husband, the automotive engineer with Cadillac in Detroit. So it was an amazing journey, and many more law of attraction stories in there. But I do really know that the universe always had my back. And I know that I had to go through those difficulties to become the person I am, to be ready to receive it. And because I am always a learner. I always want to learn. I still want to learn today. But I've always asked, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? Even when I wanted to be this, psychiatrist, why do some families happy? Why or not? And it's always been, and that's why I've explored so much. And wow, I think I've talked the whole 2 hours. I think we can take a break. Who needs to ask a question or make a comment? I'm happy to hear. Nobody? Everybody's stunned. They fell asleep, Kevin.
You're talking about being a psychiatrist.
I couldn't hear you.
Direct from Abraham themselves, I think it would be a case of, wanting to help people sort their own problems.
Yes.
Just because they don't realize they can sort it themselves by getting in alignment.
Yeah. I think the thing that I love the most that I've learned is anything can be changed. We have the power. We do not realize that. I think all of us Abers do, but we haven't been trained to realize how powerful our thoughts are, and the energy in our emotions especially. Look how many people are addicted to things because they don't want to face their emotions. And actually that's another brief story I'll tell you. We went through the thing with Kevin and his brain tumor, and that's when he really, we both got in it deep, and that's how we got introduced to Abraham, because I was always following Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and I love them. And when we opened our company, I decided I wanted to teach women, not just undercover wear agents, because I had a lot of women, but I wanted to help other people too. And so I made this program called the Women's Self-Awareness Class, and I got that material from the DVD, The Secret, and then Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, and all those wonderful people. So I was teaching that program, and then when he got diagnosed with the tumor, he saw me loving this stuff, and that's when he said, I need to understand this more. And then he dove in, and I just love that he did. And that's in the end, when we got through that, we started teaching and training and so forth together. But one of the things that happened to me that expanded me even more, because we went on all these cruises and we learned so much. And I mean, really, Kevin got in the hot seat, 6 or 7 times. I never did, but I became aware of it. I just knew he was meant to be up there. He could ask a question so clearly and get the answer that helped so many people in the audience. And I honestly, when I think back on it, I would raise my hand, but I already knew what the answer was. I knew it was, and it would always come anyway with somebody else getting up in the hot seat. So that's the lovely thing about it. You don't have to worry if you don't get in the hot seat, because somebody will ask you a question. But
Susanna, so you are openly saying, no matter if you get to be it a cruise or a workshop where you have got a question on your mind, someone gets in the hot seat that isn't you, you know,
Yeah.
a question will come through that you wanted to ask
Yes.
and you receive the answer.
Yes, it's beautiful how it works that way. That's exactly how it works. And we saw it happen over and over all the years we went on the trips. And the one thing that I was always having to go explore deeper for, because we've been on, we've been on many cruises and listened to thousands and thousands of CDs when the year of Kevin's tumor. But the part that I really started wanting to go deeper and understanding my emotions, and I know Abraham doesn't really talk much about it, but was the emotions, that habit of thought that I developed when I was 9 or maybe even before, that I'm not good enough, I don't belong in this family, I can't have this, what's wrong with me? That was pushed down so many years. I carried that energy. It was so easy for me to tap into. Whenever I ran into any, I would go right back down to I'm not good enough. And the interesting part was, if you don't face an emotion that you haven't gotten at peace with and just released it, other things will keep coming up in your life. This is what I've learned anyway, to bring your awareness to it. Like, this is something you still haven't, really acknowledged, that wasn't a trauma on you. So in 2015, I had a great grandnephew who died of SIDS. He was 6 months old. There was no, I can't imagine he just stopped breathing, but he did. And then a month later, my niece, who was 35, committed suicide. And then I began wondering, and I was starting to write my book then, but I obviously got interrupted with this stuff. And I started asking more and more, like, what is life all about? Why does all this stuff happen? And then my son, I have 4 children, and my youngest son got diagnosed with cancer. It was a thing called desmoid tumor. And I kept flying out to Colorado. All the rest of my kids live here in Michigan, but he lives in Colorado with his wife and 2 little ones. And I'd fly out for the surgeries. And on the 4th surgery, I was really worried. I mean, he didn't want to listen to he didn't want to listen to law of attraction and how he could change the way he was thinking. So I just let that go, because I just wanted to love him and be there for him. But when I got home from that last surgery, there was no more room for any more surgeries to happen. That they'd already taken out so much out of him that it was pretty scary. And I was in a lot of stress, and I just was pushing it down, pretending I'm a big girl, I can get through this. I understand the universe, whatever happens, I will somehow get through this. And you know what Abraham says this all the time: if you ignore the emotion, it gets bigger and bigger. So by the time the surgery was in October, by the time we got to Thanksgiving, I started having bloody noses. They were bright red. And they were like 2 or 3 times a day. They didn't hurt, just ruin every outfit I'd get on. Just boom. I never knew when they were coming. I could be driving. I could be at a networking meeting. This went on for 2 weeks. And finally, I said to Kevin, I can't stand this. I can't even have fun anymore. I can't even get out and be with people and do the stuff I like doing, talking about our business and stuff like that. And he said, well, why don't you just write in a question? Now, there's a guy who channels a lot of different streams of consciousness, Daniel Scranton, and he'll let you type in a question, and like for $19 or something. I don't know if he still does it, but back then he did. And then he'd get into his channeling state and email you back the answer, whoever came through. And so I went to the doctor, by the way. I didn't have high blood pressure. I had no history of nothing. They couldn't see anything wrong. So it was just my body. So I sent the question in. I know my body's talking to me. I don't know what's happening. I'm having a serious bloody noses. They are random. I'm not ill. Can you help me? And the answer was, they came back, and it was a recording because he had channeled someone and they sent it to you. I was having a third eye cleansing, and your chakras, and because it was right by my nose, it was trying to let me know I was having a cleansing. And I actually wasn't into chakras, because Abraham doesn't talk about them. So I really started reading about them. And oh, cleansing. Okay, my body was trying to get rid of something. And then I sat really quiet and I meditated on the question, what am I trying to get rid of? And then I realized I'd been hanging on to the worry of my son situation, the death of my nephew, my suicide of mine, hanging on to all of it, and I had no control over any of it. And I realized I was even beginning to worry about money, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. It was like one worry leads to another, leads to another. My life was full of worry. And I decided, and I let myself go into that feeling. I let myself just get in deep and cry and cry and cry. And finally took that deep breath like I did with Roxy. And I got back connected. And the amazing thing happened. My bloody nose stopped the next day. I never got them again. I let go of it because I let myself go into the deep feeling of all of that. So that's one thing I learned. And then everything else unfolded. I started a program called Trusting Your Inner Guidance because I realized my inner guidance had been talking to me for years. And right then it was really letting me know that I had to let go of not being in control. When you live with alcoholics, you try to be in control of everything because they're out of control. And I had to let go. And it was good. It was a good learning. Wow. Okay. I told Kevin, you never have a loss for words with me. So I know I've talked the whole time.
I think it's great, Suzanne. It's wonderful hearing your story.
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank
yeah.
You. I appreciate all of you.
I'm surprised it's 2 hours gone by.
Me too.
A lot of what Suzanne has been saying has ticked a lot of boxes from me, from my personal past life, because the lingerie company Undercover.
Oh, who can help me out? Who could hear him more clearly? I can't hear you that clearly, Jonathan.
Sorry, I will try to speak more clearly. Your lingerie company Undercover?
Oh, the lingerie company. The cool part was when I fell in love with Kevin and we got married. And this is the interesting part. All of my life, I didn't mind going out at night doing these parties because I was with alcoholic men. I couldn't wait to get away from them. And then, of course, now I'm with this man I love and I want to be home with him. And I say to him one year, I don't want to go to my party. And he said, well, you don't have to keep selling undercover wear. I'm like, I don't? Like, I just thought this is my job. And so he said, no, why don't you stay home? And that's actually when I started the women's self-awareness class. Actually, I couldn't quit hardly because it was like divorcing a friend. So I just slowly fizzled out and slowed my parties down. But I did stop that.
So I was giggling when you was saying all this because my first ex-wife, I've been married twice, lucky number 3 wherever she is, but I was married twice. My first ex-wife was involved in something similar. You can check it on the internet, Ann Summers, and it's a UK equivalent of what you were saying, Suzanne.
Ah, okay, yes. In fact, I'm going to share one more picture with you because I learned something from my mother and from Wayne Dyer. And my mother was also an artist and she did beautiful paintings. And this one here, I have in my living room. But one of the things she told me to, whoops, let me see if I can click on this thing here. Share. Oh, here we go. Share. There we go. It's prettier than that, but she did all kinds of, she loved nature. And this was a beautiful scene in New England, actually, is where she got this photograph and then painted it. But what she told me was the frame you put around the picture will either enhance or detract from it. So you definitely want to pick carefully. And that's something that really resonated with me when Wayne Dyer was talking about, when you are thinking the worst case scenario that could possibly happen to you, the words you're saying is like painting a picture in your mind. So if you want to have a better feeling, just a little bit better feeling, you want to change the frame around the picture, find different words that feel a little better. And that really resonated with me because my mom kept telling me the frame is so important. You can have a picture, but the frame enhances it. And so does it in the picture you paint in your mind with the way you describe your life to you. So when you're having a difficult time, that was the first thing I started doing. In fact, Wayne Dyer, when I was listening to Wayne Dyer's CD, when I was going down to tell my parents that I was having another divorce, I was listening to this CD. It was from The Power of Intention, I think it was. And he told a story about changing the frame around the picture. And I couldn't think of anything because I'm down at the bottom of the emotional scale. And he says in this CD, if you can't think of anything, he must have known I was listening. Say to yourself, it's a blessing in disguise. And I'm thinking, Okay, I like the word blessing. Everybody says, bless you, child. Blessing is a nice word. I can be okay with that. Disguise must be good because I can't see any way this is ever going to be good for me. So honestly, I started catching myself thinking, this is the worst thing that could happen to me. I'm such a loser. I hate myself. Instead, I would say, it's a blessing in disguise. I didn't believe it at first, but I did believe in Wayne Dyer because I'd read a lot of his books. And the more I said it through that year of divorce, of course, the blessing came because I met Kevin, and then we continued on and had our life together. But it was a blessing in disguise. So try that. Put a new frame around your picture when you're having a difficult time. And that's my story. Does anyone want to say anything? I know.
It seems like
I was just going to quickly say, I do respect Wayne Dyer and everything. And I have got the interview, Abraham, with Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, yep.
And it is immense, especially when Wayne is certainly saying certain things.
Yes.
And what Abraham is coming back with, it's like,
I know.
there's only one word.
I know.
Wow.
I totally agree.
Wow.
I watched that too. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where Wayne, I'm not going to go on to the thing about him choosing to be born to his certain father and everything, but where Wayne Dyer was going on about GM foods and everything, and then Abraham was coming back about, well, words to the effect of, why are you so worried about this and everything? And it was like every time that Wayne, God rest his, Source rest his soul. And it was a case of, I was thinking, wow, wow, wow. Everything that Wayne was saying to Abraham, and Abraham was coming back with, it was like, it was,
Yes,
of all the Abraham material I've got,
yeah.
this was some of the most, you know, wow moments you will ever get on watching Abraham material. Anybody, if you can get hold of it, the Wayne Dyer Abraham Conversations, please.
Well, they've got a book. Yeah, you can definitely get it. I'm sure you can order the DVD, I think, and have a book now. I think Wayne Dyer actually wrote a book about his experience on the thing.
I do think it is on the actual Abraham website. You can
Yeah.
download the
Hay House. I'm sure Hay House has it.
etc.
Yeah. Melinda, did you have something you wanted to say? I thought you started to say something. You forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. Okay. So it seems like you have always been able to allow fairly well. I mean, you know, well, from the way you say you have told your story, maybe it's because now and how you're saying it, but it seems like, so I don't know if there's a question in there. I guess I'm still trying to figure out how to allow a lot, you know, so.
I get it. Allowing really is letting go. It's giving up and saying, you know what, I can't really control this, because there's so many things that we want to control, and we've learned in our society how to do these things that helps us get through in a miserable way, like we feel we're controlling. But I think I learned over all the years that when I realized there wasn't anything I could do, I would take like 3 deep breaths and, okay, let's just let it go. I would, and it means the same thing, allow. It's allow and let go to me. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I would agree with that very much so. Yeah.
It is a thing.
Karen said, I agree with that. You just sometimes 3 deep breaths and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stop asking the questions. When is it coming? How is it coming? sometimes you just got to breathe and let it go.
Yeah. And you know, once you make a decision, I'm just going to let it go. I would definitely, what I like to do then is find something that excites me a little bit more, focus on something else, because then you don't have it running through your mind. How long do I have to wait? When's the universe going to give me that little cooperative component? That's back in your head. So when you finally say, you know what, I'm just going to let it go, then get busy doing things that make you feel good, basically. Because when you start feeling better, then that's when the universe brings you the solution. So when I would let go, like I didn't know when I let go of all that worry that my bloody noses were going to stop. And here's the other good thing. My son's cancer never grew back.
Oh,
Let go.
Nice.
That's how energy is connected to the universe. I'm sure
I was just going to ask you, I just wondered how your son was doing now.
Yeah, never grew back.
Never came back. Oh, that's fabulous.
And you know, when the doctor diagnosed him, he said to my son, you know, I have good news and bad news. It's not a sarcoma. That's the good news, which goes everywhere. It's this thing called a desmoid tumor. But the bad news is they always grow back. He planted that seed in my son's head. And I'm thinking, no, anything's possible. This does not have to be your definition of what's going to happen. And I'm just glad my son did a lot of things, though, that turned he got focused on things he loved to do. He didn't know he was using law of attraction because we didn't talk about it, but I think that really helped. And it was just something we all had to go through, me, him, everyone. It was all a very everything's learning. You know, before Abraham, I used to think things happened to me. I was the victim. It was good luck, bad luck, or pot luck. And then after Abraham, I realized things happened for me. Because if I didn't have that clarifying moment, because that's what they are, every miserable thing is a clarifying moment. So you can say, oh man, what do I need to learn? So I know I don't want that again. What do I want? Because when you finally decide what you want from having what you don't want, then the universe can say, well, now let me support you. Yeah. So I just love those clarifying moments now. I just go ahead and embrace them.
Clarifying moments, Suzanne? Yes. 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 Yes.
I got a cheerleader.
Yes. I'm on a roll.
Sorry, too.
I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
Well, good.
Well, since we're in such a lovely mood, I was wondering if this would be an okay opportunity to ask for a picture.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
No.
Everybody look at your own camera. I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
You want another Dory?
Oh, there's my husband.
Yeah, there he is.
Hi,
Hey, sweetie.
I'll have to do another one. So on the count of 3.
Now, okay.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Renata Linda Senorita. Oh, sorry, Spanish slipping out.
Oh, hey, wait, I forgot to show you a picture of my book. Well, most of you've seen it anyway, so. But the cool part was I actually just put it out on Kindle, like that was all I was ever gonna do. And then Susan Green, that little sweetheart, really supported me in making it into a paperback. She helped me go through it again and revise it and word it better. And it was just, can you see it now out there? So I have to thank Susan for coming around that second time around, because I had a wonderful editor the first time for the Kindle, but that is one woman's journey from misery to mastery using the laws of attraction. If I can do it, you can too. That's what I say.
That's a great title. That just grabbed me right away. And I thought, oh, misery to mastery. I can definitely relate to that misery years and years ago. And then I'm wanting the mastery. And it's just a terrific title. It just really caught my attention. I'm so glad I have that.
It came to me later because I actually, when I first wrote it, when I was going through the difficult part of remembering all the misery, I first, when I got to the happy part, then I thought, free to be me. I'm free to be me now. And that's what I was going to call it. And then I had a friend who said, no, there's another free to be me, and there's lots of frees. And then I got quiet and I let it go. I allowed myself to open to some other thought. And then this thought came, that's what I did. I stepped into a life of joy. That's what I did. That's how that came. So that was all. I'll just unfold.
It's okay to focus on a moment of sadness if it is a step on the road to joy. If you can look on all the so-called bad things that have happened in your past and just take it as its experience on your road to joy. Anybody who knows I'm a big Marvel Comics Star Wars fan, and I will quote this from a Marvel Comics, right? Someone saying to Loki about experience, and he just says, I count experience to be experience. If you can focus on a moment of sadness, diversity, or anything in your past, yet in focusing that moment, it's that you go, I've been in this bad point, that's in the past, I let it go.
Yes,
This
let
is
it go.
where I am now.
I'm going to share one more picture. I have to share it. It's the night Kevin and I got married.
Aw.
Sweet.
I love it.
Yeah, it was October 20th, and it was in Michigan. It can be snowing on October, but it was 75 degrees that day, and we were out after the wedding, out in the evening. There it was, of course, it was a turning point for both of us.
Oh, that's precious.
Beautiful.
Wow. Oh, how precious.
Well, I'm
Suzanne?
getting an echo again, so I'll make it brief.
Okay.
But thank you so much for telling your story.
Oh, thank you.
It's like you wrote my book. There's a lot of things that my regular Aber folks don't know,
Okay.
because I don't like to share, and I am good at stuffing,
Oh, yes, I know that feeling.
which I'm working on. So
It's always one step at a time, that's for sure. That's why it's stepping into a life of joy. You can't jump there.
absolutely,
Yeah, it's okay.
everything just resonated with so many things. I'm getting chills again.
I'm getting
And
chills too.
I'm going to mute because this echo is driving me crazy.
Oh,
Hi,
okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Love you.
It's nice to see you, girlfriend.
Yeah.
No.
You may not know it, but I'm actually a writer. I write for a magazine called Women to Women Michigan Magazine. And the cool part with it is, and it's really, I won't even share because it's too long, but it's a law of attraction story. And I got asked to be, when I just had the book out on Kindle, this woman called me, the owner of this magazine, and she said, I've been looking for a law of attraction coach. And we had this big long talk. There it is. And she said, would you like to be
Oh, nice.
would you like to be featured on the magazine? This was 2017. I didn't call her, she called me. It was like the wildest thing. I got on the front of the magazine, they wrote an article up about me. And then the next year, 2018, they asked me to start being a contributing writer. And this is an online magazine, so it's w2wmichigan.com, women to women michigan.com. So it's very cool. I've had fun writing. I have the law of attraction department.
That's wonderful that they have a department like that, and you're the perfect person to be in charge of that. How great.
There's all kinds of stories in there. Always what I do is I share a little story of my life, and then I give the law of attraction, how this all happened and how you don't have, be accountable, and this is what you can do to, not let that happen to you. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. And then I also write poems. And this one here, if you ever want to look up the Women to Women Michigan magazine, this one is, this is the first time I've written a poem. I just got up out of bed and I had to write it. And I didn't know. I've written poems for people I love, for their birthday, for a wedding or something. And then this one, I sat down at the computer and this one just came out. It was The Thread. And if you want, I'll just read it real quick. It says, there's an invisible thread that ties us together, one that we're not taught about. It gently weaves its way through humanity with every beat of our heart. This invisible thread that connects us all pulses out with each beat of our heart. It ensures us all, one soul at a time, that it's our choices that keep us apart. This thread is unbreakable. It never gives up as it permeates and connects souls in need. It's patiently waiting for us to reach out and accept its warmth and beauty indeed. What is this thread that joins each soul with unending strength from above? It's the one ingredient found in everything wanted. It's the beautiful energy of love.
Oh, that's lovely. Just lovely. Our Dory is a poet, Dory McGuire here, so I know she appreciated that.
Cool.
That was nice.
It's neat that you had this poem about thread, because I was reading my own poems today for a project, and I have two pertinent poems. One is every soul is unique like a bead, and because every bead has a hole, and every person is unique because of their soul.
Oh yeah.
And so the beads having a hole, and you were saying the thread is the next one, like,
Oh,
that was like neat.
that goes right together.
Yeah. Must be law of attraction working.
Must be, by golly.
Indeed.
I love that.
Like a needle and thread.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks for the shout out, Karen. Woohoo!
Sure, girl. Anytime. I love your poems. She has several books that she's written, you know, of poetry, and I have them, several of them and all. And I love that you write poetry, and I love that you write for that magazine, Suzanne. I love that you wrote your book. So you're quite prolific in writing and in other things as well.
Yeah, and I don't know where it's all going. I always keep exploring. I'm always open to more fun, and you know, maybe I'll be a professional speaker. That would be fun. A story.
I would like to offer an alternative to tippy baby steps.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just take that Salada plunge. You can just dive, baby. You can dive. It's safe. It's a safe universe. And you know.
Look at my husband going yes, because I do.
I can't see him at the same time. Right, Kev? Give it to me. Give it to me, Kev. Let me see it. Let me see it. Yeah! Thank you.
He's so supportive of me. Really, I was never going to write a book, and he bought me a Christmas gift December before I started writing, and it was an online course from Jack Canfield and Steve Harrison on how to write a New York Times bestseller, and it was expensive. So then I thought I better start reading this. Maybe I can write a book. I don't know. And it did help me actually get it pulled together little by little. And I appreciate that, my wonderful husband.
I am just wondering, Jerry, everybody knows the name, God. I often say God rest his soul when I mean Source rest his soul. Mm-hmm. If he hadn't started wanting to ask those questions, would Abraham have come through to Esther? I believe they would have. But it's as Esther has said, Abraham has said. You know, the many questions that Jerry had that started, shall we call this catalyst? I do believe a catalyst is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne, I have a comment, if I might.
Sure.
I really want to thank you for the gift that you have an amazing gift that I've noticed throughout this whole talk. You radiate beauty and joy and love throughout the entire time you're talking, which, if I can describe this, a lot of people, when they're talking about the misery part of their story, there's a lowering of the vibration that seems to emanate from the person.
Yeah.
And their beauty and their joy and their love just doesn't shine through. But you have an amazing gift to be able to keep that smile on and that joy and that love, and that you keep the vibration up even when you're talking about the not so pleasant parts of your story. And that is a wonderful gift. And if everybody can watch that and think about that and rewatch this video, if you're watching it, just, that's a wonderful way to live your life, to keep your vibration going, even as you're relating some of the stories that don't feel so good in the past. I personally, I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about anything in the past. I've been divorced 3 times. I got some stuff. Your story when you met Kevin is so very close to when Karen and I met, and it's funny, very interesting. And everything was but I really wanted to just thank you for the gift and if everybody that's here, think about how she did that and use that as an example of yourself. If you want to take a look back to some things that don't necessarily didn't feel good at that time, keep that, somehow your gift of keeping your vibration up is fabulous and wonderful. So thank you for taking me on that journey. And the whole time I feel love and joy and beauty. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys are all great. I knew I was going to enjoy myself. Of course, you know what? I set my intention. This is one thing I learned once I started learning everything is I set my intention. I want to feel good. I want to be happy. And I start in the morning thinking about what makes me feel good. And I'm a woman, I can go through 3 or 4 outfits before I feel good. And they go, yes, I feel good. But I wait until I feel good, and then I continue the next step.
Feel good. Be well. Feel good.
Yes.
Be well.
All is well.
Feel good. Be well. Feel good now.
Thank you, Susan. We all enjoyed it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.
Okay, so actually the recording has been going on for just an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay, perfect timing.
So if anybody has any last minute questions, or Suzanne, if you want to wrap it up or summarize, or 10 minutes, whatever you want, you're fine.
Wow. I guess I could just wrap it up simply by thanking you all for being good listeners and pulling the energy out of me, because it's the co-creation. It always is. And that's why I knew it was going to be fun tonight too. But I think the biggest thing I've learned over all of my life, in a simple sentence, is when you change the quality of your thoughts, you're going to change the quality of your life.
Oh yeah.
That's what I say.
Like I said earlier, right at the beginning of the conversation, I felt the energy. I feel the energy.
You felt it all the way over there? That's the ocean.
This has been good. This is very good.
Good. That's a good thing. All right. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure for me. I so appreciate you recording it, because I'll have to watch it back so I can remind myself I have a gift, right?
Sure, you do. You're so down to earth, and you're so clear, and you just, you hit the really important points, and you just mesmerize us with your, with the details, the interesting parts of your life. And it's all there, and it's just beautiful. Just wrapped it all up.
I love you guys.
Oh, I love you too, Suzanne. And
I love you too, Kevin.
oh, that's it. Give love to the other half. I never say best half these days, because in alignment, equal. But like I said at the beginning of the onset, I felt the energy here. And I pick up energy in relationships. You, Suzanne, you, Kevin, there is a meld there. That's the only way to put it. That's the energy I feel.
Thank you.
And Dora, you want to lead the last appreciation thing?
Let's do it. Give that love to Suzanne. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
I think I'm going to get this recording off. Maybe
Once
they're
he's
Maybe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Don't, everybody
Yeah.
got recording. Stay here.